Hi, good afternoon to everyone. We will start this conversation series shortly. Thank you for coming early. So just sit back and relax as we continue to let more people to come in. Um, if you have questions during the conversation, just put them in the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to try to answer them. At the end of it, we will also provide you an email so that you could contact IBF Careers Connect should you have any questions in regards to your career development, your job search, your resume, and so on and so forth. So sit back, just relax as we are going to start at 2:30 sharp, which is about a minute away. Okay. Welcome, one and all, to this, our first IBF Careers Connect in conversation series with our IBF fellows. Today, we are very happy to get Mr. Gunjan Bhatt to come to take some time off his busy, very, very busy schedule to come and have a chat with us. And and he has decided, this is coming up in his own capacity. So he will be speaking based on his own experience, his career journey, and how he feels what will be beneficial and to help you guys in the area of AI and data, which is the hottest thing right now in terms of career development. So I'm going to welcome Gunjan. Hi, Gunjan.
Hi, Lionel, and thank you so much. Thanks for having me and looking forward to the discussion.
Okay. Gunjan, we have tried to do this like since last year, right? You were so busy moving around from places to places. So I think it'll be good to learn what is it that you've been busy with. So, in all this thing, we usually start with asking, our fellows, how did it all begin? So, can you perhaps you could share a little bit of your beginning, how you transit from an engineering student to where you are?
Oh, no, absolutely. Look, I think it's been a fantastic journey. I think my epiphany on data probably started about 25 years back.
Hmm.
So, I had graduated as a civil engineer. I had worked for a while, and I think at that time, the trend was to do an MBA.
Hmm.
And I, for the life of me, wasn't able to figure out, what would an MBA sort of, do for me. So, I did the next best thing. I said, why don't I go closer? And I joined one of the prestigious business schools as a research associate. So I thought if I'm close to the campus, close to the students, close to the course, I'll figure out, it'll give me some insight. And one of the projects that I got to sort of help in was related to, a retail store chain had come to the professor I was working with, and they were asking, hey, we do sales across different stores, but our stores, different stores are performing differently. Can you help us understand what's working, what's not, and all that? I think, as helping through this, mining through data, I think I ended up, there were two of us, and, we got into a bet. I'm not a betting man, but I think I said, we got into saying, hey, this store can do so much better than this store in the next month or something like that. And I think that started me looking into, what is driving consumer behavior, right? And I think one thing led to the other, and it actually just opened up a whole plethora of questions and curiosity in me saying, what is the biggest SKU, stock keeping unit, in a particular store? Why do this? Why do that? What are people sort of buying? And then what are the implications of these for the person running the store? And we did some work and shared it, and they made some change in the store, and next month sales turned and on. So it was like a sort of a big aha moment for me. And fortunately, I was really fortunate that the person I was working with, a professor, then introduced me to say, hey, look, if you want to do this kind of things, there are now some really good data mining tools available.
Mm.
That curiosity led me to learn, data mining tools, and I think rest is kind of history. I then moved on to select jobs that allowed me to work with a lot of data, understand consumer behavior. I'm a big student of consumer behavior since then. I worked on international, markets. I worked on industrial data. I worked on consumer data. But I've been really fortunate that I would say it's a combination of probably fortune and fortitude. Because when I went into data and analytics, I think it was not that bigger sort of it was not even that career. I think database
Mm.
market probably was the
Mm.
that time. But I think, lo and behold, went fast forward 25 years, I think it's considered one of the hottest fields. So I did ride the wave in some sense. But along the way, I think I've been really grateful that I've got good teachers, I've got people who've given opportunities, I've got, really, I've raised my hand at problems I did not know how to solve, but I applied myself, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So I think curiosity has been a real big driver. And
Okay.
yeah, that's really helped. And I think the what my engineering background helped me was the a structured way to solve problems, not getting flustered with a lot of data. I think after that I ended up doing business school also, and business school taught me how to look at a problem from multiple dimensions.
Uh-huh.
So all of those things led to this thing, and then yeah, it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm loving every bit of it. Even now I think it's amazing.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because this is very interesting because I just discovered that me too. I've come from the same background in terms of in retail before I taken up to be a career coach. I was and yes, and data was very much part of what I had to do to look through the data, and I can picture, yeah, saying, why is this store doing better? How many merchandise is needed in order to perform this, and this is so. I mean, I didn't have an engineering background, so how, as you sort of touch on to it, how did is it, to do data, must you have that kind of, engineer, mathematician, that kind of background to do it?
Not at all, not at all. So I think, look, I always tell this to my team as well. I think uh, I was saying, which is data loves all. It's just whether
Mm-hmm.
you love it back or not, right? So I think it is in some sense discipline independent. So I have found actually people who are not afraid of volume of data are
Mm-hmm.
much more open to taking to data analytics or data science kind of careers. I
Mm.
found some really great colleagues who have come from an accounting background, because
Ah,
they have learned how to use data, what's the meaning of it, how to classify, and all of that. I've got some phenomenal. I've met some phenomenal colleagues and practitioners who come from a psychology background, because in
oh,
behavioral
okay.
science is how they are using it. So I mean, I think it's not anybody's particular, how do I say, strong area. But I think what I've found, which is common, is they all have an innate curiosity and a purpose of why are they looking into data. What do they want to do with the data? And analytics, I think, is a very purposeful field.
Oh,
Otherwise, you can easily get lost in data, and they can have reams of those MIs and business intelligence reports and all of that. But knowing what you're looking for, or knowing how, what you're trying to understand, then gives you the sort of the purpose, if you may, that I want to answer this question. And in the olden times, I think we used to have Microsoft Excel or Lotus.
Lotus 123, I think.
Yes. Fox Pro, I don't know if you remember, and MS
Oh,
Excel.
now they know our age.
So, and there are limitations in terms of how much data you could sort of do. I think that sort of led to learning more specialized tools, and now actually, everything's on the cloud. It's a much more, as long as you have purpose, I think you can sort of, learn and do more. So, yeah.
Okay. So I guess you got to have a sense of knowing what is driving this, to be curious enough to come up with ideas, hypotheses, to
Yeah.
use the data to, like, as you said, you will learn some tools we'll touch on that later, but you use some tools to try to find out what you think is correct or incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I agree. I think, and it's almost like a Lego piece, right? You're trying to build something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you find that, hey, this piece is not there. So then you'll go looking for those pieces. So in sense, the skills that you acquire are because you tried something, you pushed the envelope, and you said, look, this is not happening. I need a little more. I need a little more.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
good part is nowadays, I think what all is available in the free domain can do wonder. Like our laptops are more powerful than, so it just makes it easier and accessible. But I think that curiosity is innate. So I would urge developing that curiosity, why something's happening, those kind of things. And then I think it will go from there.
Okay. So having said that, can we have a little peek at what you are currently busy with doing?
Absolutely. So look, I work for Citi,
Mm-hmm.
and at Citi I help our business and our customers to try and help grow their wealth or manage their wealth a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And we use data analytics to try and see how we can bring better solutions, both for our the bank employees as well as our customers. And it's a fantastic sort of an opportunity. And I've been in the financial services space for a while, and yeah, it's a great organization, a great platform. So and I've got a great set of teams. So
Okay. So basically, you're curious in terms of, how does the customer and the bank mutually benefits through mining of the data to, obviously
yeah,
for the point of view is to bring in more wealth since you're in wealth management.
yeah, and helping customers manage their wealth better depending on what their needs are. So
Ah,
what products will better suit for their
oh,
needs,
okay.
how we can use data, and how we can use analytics, and how we can use the past learnings to bring the right kind of both empower our frontline like RMs, our compliance colleagues and all, and then eventually also customers, so that we can be able to find the right product for their needs. And it's a continuous learning, and it's a we are trying to make it better and better. And yeah, it's a fun job.
Okay. I'm glad you brought it up because I mean that leads to the next question because many of us think data analytics is such a big words, So, in layman's term, I think you have sort of talk about it as being curious, using the data, using certain mathematical tools to try to see what kind of information the data is telling you. And so for someone who, I guess those people that have came in today will be thinking, okay, if I want a career in data analytics, I mean, it's too big for me to decide which part of the business I would like to be. So since you are talking about customers, in terms of customer service, what kind of data are you looking at, and what perhaps a scenario on what kind of information you wish to draw out?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Look, I think taking a step back, right? Like I think in financial services, and I think I like that. I heard a senior statesman about earlier this week saying, look, banking and finance is like the lubricant which
Mm,
makes the world sort of go around, trade go around, stuff like that. If you think of it that way, then there are like so many customers that are getting touched, so many businesses that are getting touched. If you look at from a wholesale side of the business or retail side of the
mhm.
and
Excuse me.
specifically on the customer side, I think, and there are newer and newer ways that people are transacting, whether it is in terms of payments,
Okay.
services, experiences, all of that. Now, trying to just understand, what is happening there, trying to get a bit of a understanding on where all the customers are sort of spending, where all the
Mhm.
customers are sort of, sort of planning about their wealth, how they are thinking about changes in the market and what they are like, how their needs are changing. It's not a case of 1, 2, 5, 10, 50 customers. Like we're talking of now thousands, and then the number
Okay.
of
Mhm.
transactions there.
Mm.
So to get a better understanding of what's happening, you need to know how to mine large data. So that's one. So it's in some sense the basic set of saying, look, the diagnostic of what is happening. So in some sense, data analytics becomes a language to understand what is happening around in terms of consumer behavior
I
and
see.
then how it is impacting the business model for the bank, for professionals, things like that. Now,
Okay.
I think if the general use of data and MI, I think everybody knows, you have KPIs or you have metrics and you track them and stuff. But I think if I look at what is the trend which right now I would say, or among one of the big trends, or one of the things that is probably driving a common sort of change across multiple functions in the bank, I would say is personalization. And I'll sort
Mm.
of give an example, right? So let's take the case of customer service, right?
Okay.
Let's say you are calling a bank for an issue that you're facing.
Mm.
Now, imagine when you call, if the executive who's sort of serving you knows a little bit about you, the context, how
Ah,
many times you called
okay.
before, how many times you've done this, or are you doing it for the first time? Are you a new customer? Like that provides a whole different context for the executive to start helping you a little better, right?
Ah, okay.
The kind of things where, or even things like, hey, a lot of people are currently facing this issue, so they may be able to tell you that there is something being done about it, or here's a way you can, it's a new feature, here's a way you can do it yourself. So this is one area where you're not sort of calling and finding that like several other people, you're one more customer, but you're trying to make it much more personal, right? So
I
that's
see.
that's an area around customer service.
I
And
see.
if we take that into the future based on the trend, I think Gen AI, for example, is
Mm.
is the whole new future of that, which is not so distant future. In fact, some places it's already being tested out. Is uh, as you call in, if the executive is able to quickly scan through the relevant policies using AI, saying, "Look, hey, out of our policy manual, these are the ones that are really helpful," or they're able to figure out here are links where there's a new feature available, you can go and look at how to do it, all those kind of things, you can do it very quickly,
Mm.
where AI or advanced data analytics can help better in customer service.
Mm.
um,
Okay.
so that's, I'm giving you an example of customer service.
Mm-hmm.
And take the case of risk management, again
Yeah.
personalization, right?
Mm.
uh, you can use advanced data analytics or AI to detect anomalies, areas which are sort of outside the norm, and then try and understand, let's investigate that a little better. Why is it happening? Is it something that we need to change in our policy, or is it something that needs further investigation action, right? In risk management, it could also be using large data to simulate stress scenarios, right?
Okay.
Or towards, determining sort of economic capital or those kind of things. So there's a fair amount of a whole set of sort of, these kind of tools can help with decisions within the bank operations and support, right? I think that's
Yeah, that's a very big. How does if a big how does data analytics is gonna help this
I
department?
I think I feel that that is going to be one of the most, I would say, impacted areas now. I think it's likely to have a fundamental sort of impact on that. One is, simple things which are probably already happening now are, processes are set in place and they are intended to work in a certain way, but
Mm-hmm.
they sort of are not working, for example. And this is where data analytics can help, saying, hey, how many failures happened or what's causing it, and so there can be a diagnostic part of it that comes into play. I think the other part comes into play, saying, look, if we want to reduce the time taken for a particular a process to happen, right? Where are the data, measuring data at a whole sort of each individual stage in the process can actually tell you, hey, this is where an opportunity to fix this. A classic example could be, when customers are going through our digital journeys, if you're finding that, hey, people have a problem transitioning between certain pages, you
Mm.
can do a journey analysis, and then you can sort of work with your operations team to say, how do we change the flow a little better, or how do we support the customer during this journey? So that can be one. I think a lot of times data is being used to identify, as you're getting in a lot of service calls, if you do look lot of recency, frequency kind of thing, and say, hey, this is an area where you're receiving the most amount of calls. How do we fix that? So those become priorities for investments for the bank too. So I think overall, throwing the whole sort of light on how can we improve customer service. Where are the opportunities? How do we understand, customer flows? How are customers using? And those things, data analytics can sort of help a lot. And then the tools of AI and a lot of other things can sort of help solve for those in some sense.
Mm. So it will prove to, I guess, to increase efficiencies operationally and the support. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in the process, the idea is also to make life easier for customer service executives.
Okay.
They have to sift through a whole bunch of information to make sure that the problem is solved. If there are tools that help them do that, if they are empowered or frontline is empowered, then that immediately translates to how customers get benefited. So I think that to me is the real game changer that I think everybody is trying to sort of bring in now.
Okay, but last but not least, I think one of the other biggest department a bank has is under regulatory and compliance. Does analytics play a role in there?
Oh, that's absolutely, and I think you touched upon a very good point, Lionel, because I think we're seeing here, like we're in Singapore. I think we're seeing over the last couple of years the the scams that are happening, and how customers are getting duped. And there's a lot of work happening with banks and the MAS and the allied agencies And they are using a lot of data analytics from a range of either it's in terms of containing fraud. For example, it could be a question of, somebody opens an account and you'd say that, the account details have suddenly changed within a short time. And then through analytics, you find out that wherever that kind of things have happened, there has been a larger chance of scam. So then policies get introduced saying there's a cool off period or something like that.
Okay.
So these are like really, really, you're actually seeing this, I feel now, play out, SMSs, sending links in SMSs.
Yes, yes.
I think trying to then say, if we are able to move out of that and make it a lot more towards digitization through push and all, and how can data analytics help to make it more personalized, what Lionel can get versus what if it is within the authenticated environment. So there is a on its own, it's not a, I wouldn't say data analytics is a standalone function, but I think in all of these fields, I feel it sort of provides, it's almost like supercharges some of the stuff that you want to do broadly towards a sense of personalization, more efficiency, more effective. You can put in a whole bunch of conditions and say, if this and that are met, then this should be the response. So you get a whole range of sort of actions that you can plan for, right? So compliance is a big deal, and I think again there, I feel that Gen AI and stuff is likely to sort of support a lot more.
Okay, I'm glad that you picked this up, because I think the next question that people may be thinking is, with this development of AI and even Gen AI, does it mean that the human don't really play a role? How do you see it?
Oh no. I'm a big believer that humans are going to very much be needed, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. My personal belief, but yes, I definitely think that the roles are changing, and I think I feel that the trend is not new. I think, like we talked about, right? You know, maybe when we were sort of starting on or something, Excel used to be a specialized skill. Only
Yes.
few people knew how to do it, and there used to be this. I still remember in organizations where they used to sit in AC rooms, and I always used to envy them because there used to be computers, which is right. But I mean, now if you see, I mean, Excel is like Microsoft Excel is like, I think very common. But I think what has happened, I feel what is happening now, I are feeling is, I think the pace of that change is much faster, and hence we are feeling that the roles are changing much faster. So there is, it brings in a certain level of anxiety, it brings a certain level of but there are, I feel, with this change, a lot of new opportunities are emerging. If you take a
Such
step,
as?
right, if you
Yeah.
take a step back, the way I see this evolution, I think from a data standpoint, I see there are, I see it in three levels of value, right? So there is data, which is your raw data that gets generated in volumes or what have you. Then there is information, which
Oh,
is
okay.
processed data, which when you actually convert data into a KPI, for example, you're processing it, you're making it relevant to some extent. So and then your dashboards and KPIs and all of that, which in some sense drive people make some decisions based on that, and then they drive action. But I think a more evolved form of that is, for lack of a better word, wisdom, right? Wisdom is what lends some kind of context and purpose, which will drive some kind of an action, or there's a rule-based action. Early form of it will be, if such and such condition is met, I think this should be the response, or things like that. Now, I feel that we have passed some years back, we passed the stage of data explosion. I think, I still remember one of the Time cover or something used to talk about, the volume, variety, velocity of data. I think, the
Mm.
proliferation of internet and all of that. So
Mhm.
that I feel was a time when there was a massive data explosion.
I
And I
see.
think in some sense technology enabled it, right? I think there was, Hadoop and data mesh and, eventually cloud. And
Mm.
now if you see, everything is tagged, stored, captured, and I think this developments promoted careers in data management, careers in data governance, cloud architecture, CRM systems, because now there are more data to play with.
Mm.
On the sort of marketing side, you had attribution management, and how do you attribute who's, which side people things are coming from. So I think that was like something that we went through maybe, I don't know, 5-7 years back or something, and right.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that happened, as I interpret it, the explosion of data led to explosion in creating information, because now you had so much of data, so there were massive forms of information system, or dashboards and business intelligence reports, and all of that getting created, like the huge reams and reams of this thing. You'll find those internal dashboards published, and there'll be meetings with a whole range of reports,
Yes, I think
monthly,
yes, yes.
quarterly, all of that. What has now ended up happening is now there is a explosion of that information. And now the answer to that technology is bringing is with this whole computing technology and AI and machine learning advances are now enabling us to process this huge volume of information very quickly.
Ah, okay.
Right? So you are able to now ask the question and get an answer succinctly, because again, executives are saying, hey, you're giving me 15 reports, but there's so much information to go to. Tell me, what does it mean? Or can you tell me
Okay.
an answer of this, right? So that's what is now, and the AI development and all are helping do that, right? They are able to synthesize, they are able to bring stuff together, they are able to say, don't just show me the data, tell me what it means, kind of thing. Now that is leading to a different kind of a skill which is required. I think it's almost like, you go to a library where the book is there, but do you know how to find the book? So it's almost like saying, what is the right question? You get the right question, then you get the right answer, right? And this has sort of promoted a whole new sort of set of skills. Things like careers like prompt engineering. How do you train AI models, right? A huge work being done in AI ML governance. I think some fantastic work is being done here with MS sponsorship. I think I know colleagues in the industry, I think across financial services, a lot of work being done in ethical AI, how it can be better used, what are the controls around it, right? This is also being used now to build training guides better. So you can use it to sort of bring new people in the job up to the curve and knowledge a lot, very quickly. Earlier, it was all about ex, experience. You do this for a while, gain the experience, and you will become better. I think these set of tools are now helping, do that. But having said that, all of these are being done because use cases are actually driven by the humans, the SMEs. So the
Mm,
pace of this evolution actually is driven by sort of humans.
I see.
And any kind of sort of knowledge intensive process is now a use case for improvement. So I think the next phase I feel is going to be exciting, where there is to be, as I said, personalization is going to drive it. And I think this is where I think we will see real sort of power of AI, if you may see. But it is going to be really, really complemented by subject matter experts. And so I feel that, and you'll see again new business models, new roles emerging. But I feel that, humans are going to play a massive role, a big role. But things are changing. So, traditional data analyst roles are not that, I feel. I don't know. And in fact, one of the things I feel, I don't know, you might have noticed also, Lionel, that there was a time when the size of data analytics, with the data explosion, you would have seen that the size of data analytics teams, and when I say use data, I mean in a larger sense,
Mm-hmm.
managing data, storing data, commercializing data, telling
Mm-hmm.
all of that increased. But over the last 5 or 6 years, if you have seen, actually those are becoming smaller.
Okay.
But the use of data analytics within individual functions is actually increasing. So it's almost like saying that now it is no longer a standalone function, but it is everybody's way of working in some sense, right?
Okay.
So it's almost like a federated model, if you may say, or something like that. So I do feel that, I mean, just coming back to your question, I think humans, I feel, are very, very much needed. In fact, they are the ones I feel who are driving the pace of this evolution.
Mm. I'm
So
glad to hear that, because I think many people have invested their time and yeah, I guess their money to enroll in various courses, which brings me to another point. Is like, you have just said that data analytics is involved with so many aspects of the business, and so how does one start off, shall we say, any prerequisite needed in terms of knowledge base wise to get
um,
into this data analytics field?
I don't think so, and uh, I think my approach has always been, and I think I tell people, I know I get people saying, "Hey, data analytics is a new hot field. How do I get into it?"
Mm,
My first response is, we are all into it, whether we like it or not, right? Because as I said, in everything that we do now, data
mm-hmm,
analytics is involved. It doesn't need to be a standalone.
mm,
And I think this is where I feel that, the qualities which I feel might be useful are, as I said, curiosity
mm-hmm.
and some kind of a healthy disregard for the obvious. When you see some
Okay, what do you mean?
when you see some statement being made or claim being made, or some data being shown this way, are you able to sort of think of few different ways where you say, can I see underlying trends, or can I see are we jumping to a conclusion little too soon? Because customers are doing this, it means they only need this. Is
Mm,
it because this was the only thing available, for example?
mm,
That kind of an attitude can automatically start bringing in a bit of a use of data, a data culture, if you may like, within the organization, within all the function. And it'll mean that, everybody becomes a little more data literate. So it doesn't have to always be some kind of a standalone in some sense.
okay.
The
Mm,
the
but-
range, I think what I would say, the range of things, one of the ways to look at it easily is to say, what do I want to use the data for? Am I wanting to use the data for a descriptive purpose to explain what is happening or to diagnose why something is happening? So that's one way, the descriptive, the diagnostic, or and then in that, you can use that to either validate a hypothesis or something like that. So it's a very oriented this thing investigation that you're doing, right? Or there is a bit of a the exploratory part of it, where or a predictive part of it, where you're saying, can I use data to be more predictive in terms of where the customer is likely to, where the needs are likely to go, or where the portfolio is likely to go, or prescriptive use, where saying, look, typically when certain conditions are met, this is where you estimate the future and you recommend a course of action. Now, that is not the realm only of data analytics. That can actually be people, in the function, in the business, whoever doing whatever can actually adopt that approach. And then I know my colleagues might not like it, but in data, but saying this is where you can sort of hold your data analytics people to account, saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Now, how can you help me? Use your data science to help me out. So you can even be a demanding customer of data analytics. You don't always have to, solve everything yourself. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, I know. I think you touched on a very good point, because the other question people may have is like, okay, so I have so much data, what am I supposed to do with it? And then you came up with the descriptive. Do I need data to explain to people? Exploratory. Do I need to find out what's going on? I explore and I do research. So that's very good, because that was one of the point that I wanted to touch later in terms of, yes, if I become a data analytic person, right? Obviously I would have to take some certification, what things not. But I guess what you are promoting is that sense of curiosity, and to be able to understand what your counterpart wants, so that you can use the data and the tools. And speaking of the tools, is it a prerequisite, or I guess it's better if you know? So like financial modeling, do you need all these things to be a good data analyst?
I think so. Honestly, I feel that the first and the most important thing is, I think, having that sense of learning is important. And the reason I feel is that sense of learning and some sort of an understanding of either customer behavior or business is important, because, as I said, that drives the analytics purpose, right? Now then the tools are not a prerequisite per se, any particular tool, but some kind of experience in coding or programming, or how do you query data, right? Like those things are helpful. But I think even if you have the first, as long as you're the attitude, everything can be learned. So that's one. Also, now there are no code tools available. Now there are classic, one of the biggest needs, for example, and you will know, Lionel, is you know they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And telling stories with data is such a valued skill that you're great in communication and you become a little data literate. I think this can be a phenomenal thing. So visualization. Now you don't need any coding. You don't need any for that, right? But you're actually, using your communication skills, but using data to actually present. And I'm sure executives across are always looking for, people with skills to do that, because they have to go through so much of data, and they need to generate some really good. How do you put across an idea in a very, very concise, a very convincing manner using data, right? So I'm just giving an example that everything doesn't need financial modeling and planning and things like that. So that is one, right? So having said that, I think if you have some experience on mining data in some form, you are much more able to quickly pick up the tool of choice that your organization is using. And now a lot of that is now becoming open source anyways.
I see.
So, if you learn Python, for example, or if you learn
Mm-hmm.
kind of SQL,
Yeah,
or
SQL.
I think that's a good enough start from a minimum skills perspective. Now, of course, depending on which role you are getting into, which role you are applying for, there will be some minimum requirements, because there may not be room for somebody to come up the learning curve. But
Mm,
my experience has been, if you're bringing in a certain uh, SME knowledge, for example, you're lacking in tools and stuff. I think that is an area that people are much more willing to invest and cover, as
mm,
to you know having just pure experience in all kinds of machine learning and AI and all that kind of thing. I think that's a little too esoteric in some sense. Not
oh,
everybody wants everything. Doesn't want a machine learning engineer, right? So
okay. So if I'm a mid-career and if I want to switch into data analytics, so what must as you said, the person could pick up all these knowledge about programming and things like that. How would this person, I guess, market themselves to say that they are able to do the job? If a person, let's say, switch from, like me, if I switch from retail and I want to be a data analytics person, how would I go about selling my experience, my skills? Any tips?
yeah, no. So look, I think um, I feel that if you look at sorry three cohorts broadly, right? There
Mm-hmm.
is an experienced executive, I think 40s or above and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel they are actually the domain experts, and I feel they are the best suited to solve today's problem with data analytics. Because you know what, as I said earlier, in terms of data, information, and wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
these are the people who have wisdom, and
Mm-hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
you know unmatched. And I think what I always recommend everybody is that play on your strengths. Because
Mm,
these folks, their strengths is wisdom. They know, they've spent a sort of a time in a certain domain. They are the ones who actually know what are the big problems in this domain. What are the
mm,
questions that need to be answered? You know, and they are the ones who should be sort of helping. They can help identify opportunities, saying, look, hey, these are the things that are required to be solved, and you know what, out of these, some of these questions are what are better solved by use of data or information. Not everything is solved by data information, but there is a range of problems within that. Now, for them, they already have the domain knowledge. Now they know these are some of the problems. Then they should select courses. I think the whole courses piece is best useful for them. They
mm,
should then select courses which has a mix of their domain, or the applications in data related to that domain. Classic example could be somebody's in compliance. They learn how to better use data to identify anomalies, for example,
mm, mhm,
fraud, or anti-money laundering,
mm,
or reviewing of sales audits or things like that, right? So what they are now doing is they are level, and it'll also give them the purpose. Why do I do this? Because they already know. So they are, I feel, ready to be change makers and help today's and almost tomorrow's problems, right? Because
I
all
see.
this AI technology is great, but I think today and tomorrow the problems you want to solve are best solved by these people. Right? So I think I value their wisdom and experience a whole lot. I think so. These are, but theirs is a very focused, whatever course they select. The only
Mm,
recommendation I will give is select courses which have a project component in them,
okay.
so that you're not only learning theory, but you get a chance to, you know, explore your creativity and design solutions. And then I think use the things like GitHub and all to sort of put it up there. So what happens is then, you are having an edge among people with your kind of experience to say, look, you not only know the domain, but you also have an edge to solve some of the problems. I mean, which executive will not like saying, hey, here's somebody on my team who not only knows this, but also knows what problems can be solved by data. And you know what? They can actually help solve that by either pulling together a team of people, but at least they know what to go. So that is, that's a great
Great. Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
And the the mid-careerists you talked about, I think they have, to me, they are the idea generators because they have got some experience, but they are also very well in touch with what is going on right now. I think they have two options in my mind.
Okay.
If I can take sort of the Star Wars example, so they can either become a Jedi with a data saber, like a lightsaber,
Okay.
which is where they're working in a field, they like it, and now they are actually getting a much more sort of equipped with data analytics to drive change in that area. They like what they are doing, they just want to become better, they want to they will have a whole bunch of ideas and new ways of doing. So that's one. Or if you are much more technically inclined and you want to transition, then you think of becoming a data Jedi. So this is where you start preparing yourself for specialized data careers, like in managing data, for example, or in managing data platforms. And this is where the ML engineer or AI engineer or MLOps kind of things come in. Or you look at commercializing data, the kind of business analytics that you do in terms of how do you use data to drive a certain, commercial outcome. Or you do data visualization, you use things like DCJS, Tableau, this thing. Those tools are also, telling stories with data. Or if you are even have a full range of ideas, then you can actually even go into building data products or service, right? So these I feel are the idea generators, and I think they are the ones who, in the midterm, are going to define how data analytics evolves. So I've got real big hope on the mid-career, this honestly, because they are the right blend of knowing what the domain is, and they've already come up saying, data, as they've grown up, data, the whole, the data explosion has already happened. So it's not new for them. Right? And then I think there is the cohort which is the young.
Yes, the young careerists, the one come out fresh out, just like you were.
I mean, they are absolutely going to change the world, right? I think they are the ones who are probably living, breathing personalization, virtual economy. So they are fundamentally going to rethink how business models are done, and I kind of call them data artists because they're
Okay.
really going to create stuff, new ways of solving problems. And now for them, I think ideas probably are something that they will have because as they interact with the world. But I think the grounding I would suggest they have, it's important to learn some kind of coding, programming, data interpretation, right? I think when to understand what is missing, what data is missing in this, when to understand that I think the data is telling us this, but I think if a conclusion drawn is something else, it's a little too far-fetched. All those kind of things. Statistics. I think statistics is a really important skill that everybody should learn. And the most important thing I will say is I think do not be afraid to work with raw data. Because I feel slowly and gradually in this whole no code, all of that kind of tools being available, we are losing touch with fundamentally raw data. How do you extract data from a certain database? So where do you go and acquire data? What is that data about? All of that. So that connect, I think, is something that they should not be afraid hands on. I think I think the ideas will come, but this is almost like, what we were told when we were growing up, at least I was, is learn your tables, right? It's like, it should come. It's almost like that. Like, being able to work hands-on with data is going to be a game changer, I think. Now, some of the things are common across everybody, I would say. So as I said, curiosity, healthy disregard for obvious, some kind of creativity. But I do feel in this new world, right? I think everybody likes to sort of see, some kind of, how do I say, track record, if you may say, right? Now,
Good point. Yes.
this is where things like building a portfolio of your projects or portfolio of your experiments or
Mm.
things that you have tried out and keeping a GitHub page or your own personal journal which you can quickly refer to become important.
Oh, okay.
um, More, I feel we have transitioned away from the case where you say, on my resume they will see this degree of certification, so it's a given that I'm cool. I think
Mm.
that's sort of gone away. I think all of us need to take a step forward and say, hey, here are some ideas how, the job I'm applying for. You go to the interview and say, here are some ideas that you can utilize to
Excuse me.
use data to make a difference. And you know what? I've tried some of these things in the past. And it just shows a much more sense of awareness and commitment. That's all.
Yes, and that's where you show your passion, I guess. By saying
Correct.
I'm passionate about data, but I have nothing to show what I've worked on is as good as anybody saying, it's like I'm good at playing the piano, but you don't have a piano to play on, and it's like everybody can be good at playing pianos.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's helpful. I think,
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I think in the fairness of time, I'm just gonna take up one or two questions from the Q&A box. In the meantime, I'll ask my colleague to launch a poll. Now, this poll will take you no more than 5-10 seconds to fill, but it's very important to us because that's where we prepare talks like this to know what are the things that the people are interested in, because we know the data for sure is just like that's why we thank Gunjan for taking time out from his busy schedule to do this for us, and which is extremely very, very helpful. I hope it benefits some of you. Apologies if we cannot answer most of your questions. I think most of the questions that they are asking can be grouped into one thing. It would have been good if we could have a demo of, perhaps a dashboard that some of the executive were like. So I know it's difficult, but can you like sort of say that if I'm an RM, what kind of dashboard would the data analytics create for me?
no, absolutely. So look, I think probably again, I would say going on the theme of personalization, right? So, if as an RM, I'm talking to a particular customer or I'm preparing for a conversation with a potential customer, what I would like is to sort of quickly have a sense of, what kind of holdings that the customer have currently, what are the needs they have expressed in the past, what are the kind of needs that have not been met, and then you can actually get into, the sort of what you call Netflix, Amazon style stuff, saying people like customers like this have also tried out these, and then there can be a whole range of analytics based opportunities and triggers you can find out, saying, hey, interest rates are going to move this way, the house or the bank you're working with thinks this is the recommendation from the chief investment officer. The RM can translate those as opportunities, for the customer. Somebody's sitting on uninvested cash. Is that something that the customer wants to sort of look at deploying in subject to their risk profile? So these things, I think, bringing the right information, not an overload of information, but bringing
Mm,
the right information out. And I think these are things created it almost things like, think of it that the RM or a relationship manager is a user. And if you're creating a dashboard for the user, then it needs to be co-created with the user. So you almost co-create with the user saying, look, what can help you prepare better? What would you like to see? And then we can sort of create something for them, which can sort of help.
Okay. So nothing too much. So if not, they will get overwhelmed by the amount of data, but enough to give the picture of the profile of the customer so that they can serve the customer better, to know the reason for the call. Yeah. So I think the other question, well, there's quite a bit of lots of questions that people are asking. Okay, so someone asked, what are the types of data and how is it used to how it is used to produce, like, because I think it's a typo, reports and things like that. I think that is unique, I guess, I think this question is too general because basically they're trying to ask is, what kind of reports do you usually generate to help people make their decision. But again, it depends on what position the person is and what function it is. So, and just an example.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think, again, as I said, like at different levels, you may want either to see a portfolio right down to individual customer. But I think the types of data is an interesting question. I think this is where I think technology is an important sort of the advancements are important. I think what technology developments have done is traditionally thinking are not meaningful or useful data are now being brought in as a part of insight generation. So things like unstructured data, for example. Earlier, we could only work with things that were in a tabular format, and Excel could handle
Pivot table, yes.
then data, database Oracle could handle so much, and then you should have but now if you see, you don't necessarily need structured data. So that's a big development. Then you start adding voice data. Then you start adding, digital flow data. Then you start adding. So that is a big this thing around being able to use different types of data. Again, serving the same purpose. So we don't need to necessarily deviate from the purpose, but you're actually now bringing a lot more precision, a lot more personalization in it, which is sort of helpful, right? And then there are mechanisms where you actually see how are things changing and stuff.
Okay. I think we just take one last question, which is the question that people are asked, is in the sense that if I want to work in your team, I think you have sort of touched on, but let's round it up. What will you be looking for?
Look, I think what I generally look for is I'm more of a person who looks for, what's the purpose? What ticks, what makes you tick? And where do you feel data can play a role in the scheme of things? Right. And then it starts, getting into how much you're prepared, how much you're not, that kind of thing. But it's the curiosity and it's the purpose of why do you think analytics can help make a difference. I think that to me is the biggest thing. And then depending on the role, whether you have the skills, not skills, all of that kind of thing are kind of different. I like people who have ideas saying this is how we can make a difference. I think that shows a bit of a sort of a bit of a passion, or somebody who is a change driver in some sense, and an ability to bring people together. I think one of the biggest things in this new way of working, I mean, when I say new, I mean is we need a lot of people to come together, almost a cross-functional team to get anything done significant. And I think it means that you need collaboration, and if you're able to show those, demonstrate those qualities, it could have been something you've done for a recent graduate, it may have been something they have done in their, college or whatever. For a mid-career, it could have been projects that they might have run, or somebody senior, it could have been about what they have achieved. So anywhere it's demo, but those kind of things, make it easier for people to sort of make that favorable call, if I may.
Mm, mm.
So love of data, curiosity, some kind of demonstrated, track record of collaboration, working with people together. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So for the people that's still here, thank you. Gunjan, you have any last words of encouragement for these people that would like to get their foot or their whole body into data analytics?
No, I say welcome, guys. I think, we can together change the world. And I think, let's make it happen. And thank you for the opportunity.
All right, then. So, Gunjan, thank you. Thank you again for taking time out from your schedule to do this. I think based on some of the suggestion, maybe we could engage you, to do a demo on what are the, I mean, just thinking out loud, maybe because people, some of the questions, they always, a picture says 1,000 words. So all this
Yes,
data, how it, how you collect it and how you process it so that
sure.
it becomes, so
Maybe-
I think we can take it, maybe in a group setting, in a live, I mean, maybe a people, a small group. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. For people that put it in the Q&A, we will try to work on it. No promises, but yeah, I think that's a very good idea. When we talk about data, it's
Think it
good to
live.
see. Yeah, it's more of a visual thing than or audio things, right? So yeah. So thank you again. Thank you guys for turning in. Thank you for those who gave us the feedback. Thank you for the suggestion. We'll catch you guys in the next IBF in Conversation series with our fellows. And have a good weekend then. Huh? Bye.
So much. Bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.